In this episode of the podcast, we are going to talk about how to plan so that you can complete the habits that you need to reach the goals that you want to have for this year. We're going to be talking about the most flexible and easiest and adaptable planner that actually helps you to create and accomplish those routines that will help you reach your goals. So I hope you'll join me today for this episode. Welcome to A More Beautiful Life Collective podcast. We know that in the hectic hurry of everyday life, it's easy to lose sight of what really matters. This is a moment to pause and realign your focus on the one who gives us peace and rest. We're focusing on discipleship, productivity, and homemaking as we live with eternity in mind. This is the place where you'll learn to create a life you love and cultivate your heart for God. I'm Casey Fletcher. Thanks so much for joining me. Hey everyone, welcome to Season 2, Episode 22 of A More Beautiful Life Collective podcast. I'm your host, Casey Fletcher, and today we are talking about the flexible, most easiest to use planner called the Index Card Planner. Now, just hold on for a minute. If you are not somebody that uses a planner, or if you are somebody who already has your planner of choice, don't go ahead and fast forward through this episode because I am going to be talking about a couple things that you can do with any planner that you have in order to help you reach your goals. I was thinking about, as we were talking about the 5 best planners to have for your life, I think a lot of times people, we talked about the problem that people have where they just don't use their planner, or maybe their planner isn't suited to them. But I also think that there's something that a planner can do that can actually help you to reach your goals. And part of that is by consistently pushing you towards the habits that you need to do to reach your goals. I think that's where a lot of planners actually fall short. One, we have to make sure that we create a daily habit of checking our planners. But then the other thing that planners sometimes fall short in is that they don't really recognize those everyday actions, the things that really move the needle on who you want to be and on your goals. Things like your daily Bible reading, or walking 10,000 steps, or drinking the water that you need to drink, or homeschooling your kids. These everyday actions that aren't really something that move in a linear progression towards a goal, but they're things that are really important to do every day. Because in the consistency, that's where we actually see the biggest gains in our life. And so what we're going to be talking about today is a planner that helps you to build that consistency into your everyday life by helping you structure your routines. But as we think about this, I think it's just a great important reminder for the preparation that we need to reach our goals. So we're going to be talking about the Index Card Planner. If you're interested in this and you would like to get your own copy of the planner, you can get that at the shop at amorebeautifullifecollective.com/AMBL shop. There you'll find a Kickstart bundle where you can print all of those things off and set up your planner, as well as some extra things that you can also add to your planner as time goes on. So, we are in the middle of a mini series on the new year and on preparing for the new year, on goal setting and getting your year started off well. And as I've been thinking about all of this, I think that the new year, it really highlights the need for preparation. I mentioned in the last episode that we were expecting baby girl, number 3, December 29th, and she actually came on December 17th. And so as I was writing this was before she was born, and I'm recording it after she was born. But as I was writing this post, I was thinking about with, the birth of a child with a newborn days, there is so much preparation and planning that goes into those newborn days. You prepare as you gather together all the clothes and you fold them and organize them, as you gather together the diapers and the passies, the bottles, all the things that you need. And then also as you get together your meal planning and your freezer meals maybe you try to schedule some time off work. And so there's all the preparation that goes into doing what you need to do to be able to take that time off. And so I think, as I was thinking about all of this, I think that preparation, if you've ever had a child and you've prepared for those newborn days, you know how important those things are. It's so important to prepare for the newborn stage so that whenever the baby actually gets here and you're in the middle of that postpartum period, you can actually just enjoy that time. Because in your preparation, you have made a way for the ease of the rest of that time for peace, really. And I think our goal setting is another way to think about this. We want to prepare so that we can accomplish our goals, and that preparation is really key to reaching our goals. We are preparing for the new year and we're looking at all of these goals. But at the same time, we can also view the year in a way that we're kind of already dejected. Like before the year even begins, we think, there's no point. Everything is going to be the same. We're never really going to change. And so the question becomes, how do you stay motivated with those goals that require time the most? So they don't really require too much money and they don't require, a ton of effort. It's something where really to move the needle on the goals, it's just that daily consistent effort. It's the time. It's just saying, have I done this for X amount of days over the upcoming year? And if you say yes, then you know that probably chances are you're going to have reached your goal. But if you say no, you probably won't. Great example of this is with our Bible reading plans. Really, with your Bible reading plans, it's not something that you can sit down and you say, okay, for the whole day, I'm going to read my Bible. I'm going to try to read the Bible from start to finish. That is good, I guess. It can be an admirable thing to read your Bible like you would like a novel. But really, the biggest gains are going to come from daily getting in the Word and spending time with God. And I think planning and goal setting is the same thing. We need to view our schedules and recognize the nature of them in light of this cyclical calendar, of the cyclical year, of your cyclical weeks. We do things repeatedly. In some jobs, we might move from point A to point B, and that linear progress is how we can measure our goal. For instance, so my husband is working on building a house, and so right now he has somebody out there that's working on the roof and the surrounds around the house. And so the thing is with roofing, there is a point A to point B. You start at one end and then you go to the next. At some point, the job is finished and you can move on to the next thing. But we know anything to do with people, that isn't the case. You don't move from point A to point B with people. Maybe you could say, okay, from your child to the point that they, from the point that they're born to the point that they are graduated, maybe that's point A to point B, or from the beginning of the school year to the end. But we know that with kids or with your home, with your marriage, it's not something that you're necessarily moving linearly towards a goal. It's something that every day you're doing certain habits and things that strengthen it and deepen the relationship and help move the needle towards your goal, but it's only in doing them repeatedly. If you do a devotion with your family one day, that's not really going to make a huge difference in their life. But if you say over the next several weeks or months or years, you try to do a devotion with your family every night for 3 out of the 5 nights, weeknights a week. Okay, so 3 nights a week, you're going to do a devotion with your family. That is going to be something that you will see fruit from. And the only reason why is because you're doing something over time, repetitively. You're making a habit out of it. Our habits are what cultivate excellence in our lives. And we've talked about habits a lot on the podcast, how to make them, how to keep them, how to revise them. And in the last episode, we talked about how to set goals over a period of 12 weeks where you actually measure these habits or tactics and you figure out, how well you're following through on the goals that you want to keep. I think often to reach our goals, we really just have to do a better job of consistently doing our habits. But the question then becomes, okay, how do we do this? How do we consistently do our habits? You can have a million habits that you want to do. There's some, I know for me, one habit that I wanted to start is they say the first thing in the morning you should do is you should go out and get some early sunlight on your eyes. So you should go outside for about 15 minutes and watch the sunrise. And I wake up early, I'm up before the sun every day. But the thing is, it's I never think, oh, let's go outside, especially now it's 20 degrees outside. And so for me, that is something that I have this habit that I'm oh yeah, that'd be great to do. But following through on that habit is something that I'm not necessarily doing. And so how do we create our schedules and routines where we are doing the habits that we want to in order to reach our goals, especially whenever we can easily lose motivation? The way to do this is by making a daily commitment to doing your habits. And so part of that is you try to habit stack and create triggers and check your progress on your goals in order to do the habits that you need to. But I think sometimes that we don't realize that we can do all the things I've talked about with habits through using our planners. I think just like a little preparation goes a long way towards, creating that peace in the newborn stage, we have to prepare for our year in order to have a better likelihood of reaching our goals in the upcoming year. And so that preparation, it should translate into habits. And specifically, it should translate into actually executing our habits, actually doing them. It has to be something that results in daily action. So it's not enough to sit down and map out the goals that you want to do this year. That's a good starting point, but you also have to figure out how to incorporate them into your daily routine. So I've been using a planner that actually helps me do everything that we've been talking about in this episode. So it helps me to create routines. It helps me to follow through on our habits. And it's a planner that I mentioned in our episode on the best planners for moms or anybody who wants to reach their goals. This planner is called the Index Card Planner. So the Index Card Planner is exactly what it sounds like. So basically, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see a version of the Index Card Planner that you can find on the shop at amorebeautifulifecollective.com/AMBL shop. But basically, you have a card deck that is full of index-sized cards. So what I do is I actually print out these cards on my printer. You can get about 4 per page on the printer. So then I just cut them out and then it becomes my card deck. Or you could actually use index cards that you could buy from the store. And each card has a specific purpose. So there's calendar cards, there's daily task cards, there's certain date cards. I have to-do lists and all sorts of things in this. Now, as you set up the card deck, you can organize the cards however you want. And the reason why this is so helpful, especially for what we've been talking about, is through these card decks, you actually are setting up your routines and your habits so that you are able to go through and do those things each day. So here's why you should use the Index Card Planner. First, it recognizes the nature of our lives. Our lives are cyclical. Yes, there are certain things that we do that move from point A to point B, but for the most part, we have things that we do every day where it's not necessarily something that we're progressing in. It's just something that we're habitually doing. You don't progress in eating, but you need to habitually eat. So that is something that your Index Card Planner can help you do because it recognizes the nature of our everyday lives, where it provides space for things like reading your Bible, making dinner, folding your laundry, making your bed, all of these things that are the daily tasks that we have to do. And in doing so, it cultivates routines. An Index Card Planner helps you stick to a routine because first, you have to think about the structure of your routines while you're setting up the planner. So it gives you that space to contemplate what you want your days to look like, which we know is important. Routines are how we structure our days. They're the building blocks of our lives. But all too often, we never think about what routines we have. And so the Index Card Planner builds that into how it is created, how it's structured. But in addition to this, you also are confronted with your routines every day. So it's not something like you think at the beginning of the year, you say, I'm going to wake up and then I'm going to go for a run. And so you do that for a few weeks and then you kind of fall off the wagon, right? Well, the thing about this is every day, because you've created this planner that actually has these things built into it, every day you know that this is the next task that you have to do. Now, you don't have a string of tasks. It's not like a to-do list format. Instead, with the Index Card Planner, as you flip through your card deck, you're moving through your routine. But the only thing that you see is the card at the very top of the pile. So, for instance, if you're looking at my planner, one of the things that I have right here is tidy the main bedroom. So the task that I'm focused on right now should be tidying the bedroom. And then the next task would be feed the animals or something like that. And so as you look through your Index Card Planner, you are really working through your routines, but it doesn't become overwhelming. You also don't have to rewrite your to-do list every day to contain some of those habits that really what they are, but sometimes we forget them. In addition to all this, the Index Card Planner is super flexible. It adapts to what life throws at you. So I always hated whenever I had these planners and I worked so hard on them and I would write out everything that we were going to do. And then something happened and basically all the work that I put into the planner just basically needs to be thrown out the window. Life changes, right? And so as we are working through our planners, we need a planner that can change with us. And so the beauty of this is that you can shuffle the cards however you want. You can throw away the cards if you need to. So if there are certain things that you just are like, oh, I don't need this anymore because life circumstances have changed, you can just throw those cards out. Or maybe there's things that you need to add into your planner. You can add those into the card deck. So it's super flexible. And basically, you can use it indefinitely. The only prep work that it requires is basically after you set it up is just adding in the new date cards every year. It's very cost effective. Planners generally now are like $50, $60, $70. But the index card planner, basically, you could use a card deck of index cards, right? And so that's pretty affordable. You get a version of the index card planner on the shop for just $5. So really, it's something that you can use again and again and again, and it's very, very affordable. It's also user-friendly. It's something that once you get the hang of it and you've organized your cards, you can just pick up whatever day that you're on and follow through with it, and you will start moving the needle on your goals. It doesn't require much setup each week. And so in that way, it has a lot going for it that maybe undated planners or bullet journals don't. It's also infinitely customizable for the same reasons that I mentioned. You can add whatever cards you need depending on your situation in life, and then you could take out the cards as your life situation changes. You get to make it work for you. So let's talk about how this planner works. And as we talk about this, again, if you already have a planner, you could think about maybe how you could incorporate some of the elements that we talk about today into your planner. How could you have a planner that could work in your routines and your habits? My husband doesn't use this planner, but he does use Google Calendar. And so he actually has event for the routines that he has each day. Or you could have, a to-do list reminder or a task reminder for some of those routines. And so you got to think, okay, how am I going to get my planner to help me do the habits that I know that I need to? And so that is going to be something that is going to depend on your life circumstances and situations, but it's definitely something that can be really fruitful because once you get a system that works for you, those habits are really going to be the thing that help you to change your circumstances in life. So when you want to create the index card planner, basically what you have to do, the first step is you gather together your card decks. So you can get the Kickstart bundle on the shop, or you can just get your index cards, and you need to create several different types of cards. So the first thing that I would create is your monthly date cards. So for instance, this is a card for the monthly calendar. So basically it just has your calendar and your dates. And then you would also have your daily date cards, which is just a little index card with a tab on it that has your date of the month. And these are set up so they can also function as a memory log. So it has for each month, you would write down what you do on that day of the month. And then at the end of the year, you have a overview of what you've accomplished that year. You also need routine cards, like I mentioned before. So your daily task cards. These could be anything from read your Bible, read your book, to cleaning the house, to homeschooling tasks, work tasks, anything that you would like to do each day. And so basically that is the building blocks of your card deck, but you can also add in other things depending on your life situation. So you could have meal planning cards. So I have those. So you could have daily workouts, monthly, quarterly, and yearly reviews, really anything you want to remind yourself of. I also have in my card deck cards that help me with my 12-week year, like we talked about in the last episode, that have habit trackers for those goals. And you can have, your project and action list, like the Getting Things Done method recommends. And so all of those things can go into your card deck. And really the only thing that you would have to think is just, how thick you want your card deck to be. On the shop, I have cards for everything that I mentioned, but the sky is the limit. You could have Bible reading cards. You could have, vacation planning cards. You could have debt trackers and saving trackers. All of those things can be created and put in your index card planner. Once you have gathered all your cards together, then you need to organize it. So what I do, like I said, is I print off these things from like a PDF file, and then I cut them out and I organize them. And so really this is the only part of the planner that requires a little bit of work, but you don't need to get overwhelmed. As you organize the planner, this is actually a crucial step, because what you're doing then is you're creating your routines. And the great thing about this is because they're created on index cards, as you think about your morning routine, you can move around your cards based on what you want your routine to look like. And so if you never thought out your routines, this could be good. Even if you don't use this planner, this could be good for you to do. If you just write out on index cards the different tasks you want to do each day, and then you move them around so that you can ultimately get your daily routine established just based on where you want your index cards to be. And the good thing about index cards is you can just move them where they need to be. So if your first iteration is not what you want, all you have to do is just change it. And so then you'll ultimately work out a routine that really accomplishes what you want. I would recommend storing your cards in something like, I have this little plastic tub, and so then I can keep my card deck plus a little sticky notepad and a pen in the tub. I've also seen people who they keep them in like these little zipper pouches. So if you are carrying your card deck around places, I'd recommend that. I keep mine at home. I don't really take it places. That is how I store them. Remember, you don't want to keep them in like a binder clip or something that is kind of like staple them or anything like that, because the beauty of the planner is that you can easily shuffle them as things come up. So after you organize the card deck, then you need to set up your daily routines. So what I have for my planner, the way I've structured it, is I have my monthly calendar card. So I check the dates each morning. And then I have my vision statements, action lists, those like to-do lists, meal plans for the week, 12-week tracker. And then after that, my planner is set up where I have my morning routines, my homeschool routines, weekly routines, work routines, evening routines, and then those date cards with the memory log. And you can see how in the way that I've set up my planner, basically that's my schedule. So as I move through the planner, it's just I'm working out my daily schedule. And again, I'm just doing the next task on the list. Sometimes I also will keep a sticky note beside it and I'll write my top 3 tasks for the day. I think this is really beneficial for whatever planner that you use, because it helps you just be realistic with the goals that you have. Because I think sometimes people, you're overly ambitious, and so you might try to put too much in one day, and then you feel a little bit dejected that you didn't get everything you need to done, or you were trying to do too much and then it ended up stressing you out and maybe causing friction in your family. Keeping your list to a top 3 will help you be realistic with what you can do, and it also can help give you that purpose for the day, that vision for what you need to accomplish, and it can just help you be intentional. So what I do is in the morning, whenever I wake up, I check the card deck and I look at the calendar cards and I might write my top 3 for that day. And then I try to check it again with every meal. So for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then I try to check it again at night. And that is really crucial for making sure that you're actually doing the cards. With any planner, if you're using a planner, which I recommend that you do, because obviously if you just say, oh, I'm planning, I'm doing it in my mind, really, you're not doing anything. What you're doing is you're having good intentions, but if you don't write things down, that lack of concreteness can often lead to you kind of being blown and tossed by whatever people are throwing at you. It can also lead you to, again, be overambitious with what you're going to get done today. And so I'm not saying that you're so regimented in your planning that you don't allow for any kind of spontaneity or for God to work in your life. You're not in control, but what you do want to do is just make sure that you're writing out those things to get it out of your mind so that you can be purposeful with what you are doing. And you can also follow through, because we're going to forget stuff. Once your life gets pretty full, things just fall through the cracks. And so your planner is your way of praying through your day, allowing God to lead you in what you're doing, and then making sure that you follow through on your commitments, that things don't fall through the cracks. I'd recommend that with any planner that you do, you try to check it at least, with every meal, or, once or twice a day at least, Because if you don't, then your planner is just going to gather dust on a shelf somewhere. You got to build a routine to check your planner. And then soon that planner will become habitual to go back to, and it will become like your second brain. But if you have ever had a planner and you're like, oh, it just didn't work for me, it probably was just because you're not checking your planner often enough. So what I do is I check the cards, and then as you work through your card deck, once you finish a task, you just file it to the next day. If it's a yearly task or a weekly task that you don't know what day to file it under, then you can, I have a tab that says to be filed. And during my weekly review, I will file those tasks away. And crucial to all of these things is as you're doing your daily tasks, you want to make sure that you don't skip a task 3 times. There's going to be times where a task comes up on your index card and you realize, I can't get that done today. And then you flip it to the next day. But you want to make sure that you don't skip it 3 times. There is saying in running is like, you don't want to miss 2 days in a row whenever you're running, because if you do that, basically it's like, oh, we're done. We're done with that habit. We're not picking it back up. Unless it's intentional, I guess, like you have 2 rest days in your running plan. But the thing is with your planner, it's the same thing. Like if one day you don't get to your Bible reading and you skip it for that day, make sure you don't miss 2 or 3 days in a row, because then it's going to be that much harder to get back into the habit just because of the inertia that you've created. Your weekly review is really important. And I would say that is the last thing that would be like a step for creating and setting up your planner. But basically your weekly review is on maybe Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday morning. You look at your week ahead and you file away the cards that haven't been filed yet but need to be accomplished that week. And so basically what I do in my weekly review is I make a to-do list for that week. I also do my meal planning then, maybe grocery shop then, and then I file my cards. As you think about the upcoming year, I hope that you really are thoughtful about the systems that you're setting in place so that you can reach your goals. Whether you choose to use this planner or one of the other planners we've mentioned on the show, or you have your own system for how you're going to reach your goals, I hope that you're intentional about them and that you're trying to plan for how to accomplish them and to do those things that you need to do in your life excellently. I think this is something that we're called to do as Christians. We're called to prepare, we're called to goal set, we're called to plan because we want to be intentional with the time that we have. And so this is my reminder to you to think about the systems you have in place and think about, are they helping you to cultivate that intentionality in your life? If they're not, how could you change those systems? How could you incorporate some habit stacking or some task tracking or some goal setting into your everyday life in order to meet those things? The index card planner is a great way to create consistent habits because it helps you to create your routines and then reminds you of them every day. So it is the trigger that helps you get going on your habits. And it reminds you too that progress is not just this one big thing. You don't take a day to read the whole Bible. You want to read the Bible daily for the whole year. You don't take a day to get in shape. You try to daily work out so that by the end of the year, you can see that fitness and the gains that you've made there. It's the slow, methodical movement in the right direction that actually is going to make a difference. So if you want to try this out for yourself, you can get a free copy of our daily routine cards in the show notes or at the blog post for this podcast. You can also go to the shop at amorebeautifulifecollective.com/AMBL shop to get your copy of the Kickstart bundle and anything else that we've mentioned in the show. If you have liked this podcast, don't forget to subscribe to the blog and to the podcast to never miss an episode. While you're there, you can also comment or leave a rating and review to help others find the show. Until next time, keep creating a life you love and cultivating your heart for God. Bye. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of a More Beautiful Life Collective podcast. If you haven't yet, please leave a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts to help others find the show. While you're there, you can like and subscribe so that you never miss an episode. Don't forget to check out the blog and our store for more encouragement and resources on how to create a life you love and cultivate your heart for God. I'm Casey Fletcher, and I'll see you next week.